Daniel Ricciardo's recent performance in McLaren has been well under the expectations, and it wasn't anything better last year either. Things have gotten to the extent that Zak Brown had to publicly shame him, saying that he isn't satisfied with the performance of Daniel. According to him, the bad performance of Daniel just goes to show how good of a driver Lando is, but why is Ricciardo underperforming in McLaren? Is it because he still hasn't understood how the McLaren car works? Or is there something behind his driving style? Stick with us until the end of this video as we'll try to explain the nuts and bolts of Ricciardo's driving style and why it just isn't clicking in the McLaren car. Ricciardo's first year in McLaren has been modest. The Honey Badger managed to bag a win in Monza, followed by Lando at P2. This was McLaren's first 1-2 win since 2010, and it was a huge booster for Ricciardo's morale. However, he hasn't managed to convert his performance after. Things have started bad for McLaren and Ricciardo, as the team had a brake issue in the debut, leaving both McLarens far away from the top 10 drivers. Lando has managed to pick up the pace and also bagged a podium at Emilia-Romagna GP, while Ricciardo has failed to follow in his footsteps. As of now, Lando has 64 points while Ricciardo has 17, which only goes to show the dominance of the young Brit over the Aussie. However, it's not just the car adjustment that Ricciardo lacks compared to Lando. His driving style isn't really fitting for the McLaren car, as we're gonna reveal in this video. Daniel Ricciardo was excellent in Red Bull and in Renault, and it seems like his driving style back then used to get him some decent points. At Red Bull, he was also in the mix for the championship on several occasions, and he managed to give Renault a podium finish too. However, he is 0.650 seconds slower than Norris in qualifying and is constantly missing out on the Q3 section on Saturday. Most drivers follow a braking pattern, entering corners more quickly. Hamilton is one of the drivers that has a braking manner near to perfection, enabling him to get the car through the corner more swiftly. Compared to him, Vettel enters the corner in more of a V-line, but their manners are compatible with the cars that they are driving. Let's look at Alonso in 2005 and Alonso now. In 2005, when he was driving for Renault, that F1 car was known for its strong rear end. The tires were also much harder compared to the modern F1 era. This is why Alonso was able to induce oversteer all the way into the corner, which additionally heated the tires and gave him the grip to pivot the car mid-corner and fire it out on the exit. However, in 2022, Alonso isn't using this technique because he would simply destroy the tires and he'll be much slower. That being said, it seems like Ricciardo's style from 2014 to 2018, when he was a Red Bull member, made him a very famous and a very good driver. The Red Bull car in this period was very strong regarding the aerodynamic performance, as the car had a more raw downforce than the other teams. However, the car had a Renault engine that seemed slower than the other engine manufacturers, so the car was quick on the corners but was slow on the main straights. The car itself fitted his style perfectly because we all know Daniel loved to brake late, something that he's known for and gained him the nickname the last of the late breakers. But this was only done on the overtakes, and compared to other situations when Daniel wasn't overtaking, he actually brakes a little bit earlier than most of the drivers. This has allowed him to turn in an aggressive manner into the corner as he carried a high speed in the corners. By braking earlier than most drivers, Danny's car would enter the corner in a more stellar and a stable manner, which also boosted his minimum speed exiting the corner. One Red Bull performance engineer said that Max didn't mind if his car wasn't stellar when exiting the corners compared to Danny. This was one of the main differences between their driving style, and thanks to the car that provided a good front-end grip, Daniel was able to preserve his tires more. Because he was braking early, he didn't apply as much pressure and weight on his tires as Max, and that would save the front-end grip on his tires. However, Daniel left Red Bull for Renault in 2019, and the Renault car had a very similar setup compared to the Red Bull one. Yes, it was slower on the main straights and in the corners, but Daniel said that the car didn't have the same grip as the Red Bull on one occasion. However, he also said that he could drive the car in a similar way, which enabled him to score some podiums for the team. Fast forward to 2021 and we have Ricciardo in McLaren. Although the 2021 and 2022 cars are much different, Daniel is struggling with problems of the same nature. Greg Scarborough is a freelance journalist and illustrator, and he has managed to capture the main problem that Danny is experiencing in McLaren. As he said, going to McLaren last year, it seemed almost as though Ricciardo couldn't get the car turned, couldn't get it rotated past the apex, and the way that he wanted to, he was actually running out of road on the corner exit. So that would then lead us to think that the 2021 McLaren car didn't rotate as well on the corners compared to the earlier versions of the Red Bulls. This could suggest that maybe it's a slightly weaker front axle or a more stable rear axle in contrast to the Red Bulls, which typically have a more loose rear axle, finished Greg. If we compare the driving style of Ricciardo and McLaren and Red Bull, it seems like McLaren has a stronger rear end. This means that the car is good on the brakes, but can oversteer a little bit. If we're to judge by interviews from the past 2 years, this has turned out to be the main problem of Ricciardo's performance in McLaren. The understeer isn't an easy problem to overcome, especially not if you're used to a car that used to have a lot of front-end grip. The early versions of Red Bull cars have enabled Daniel to roll the car into the corner with a lot of speed. He managed to do this by applying a low amount of brake pressure, allowing more weight over the rear of the car for a better exit. But in McLaren, Danny seems to run out of road on the exit, just like Greg said. So that all kind of adds up, and some drivers were able to, adapt to this and get it to work. There was clearly circuits and days where it worked for Daniel, but on the whole, it seems that the way that the front axle works doesn't really work for Daniel and the way he likes to rotate the car. Particularly when he's doing these kinds of classic overtake moves where he just kind of straight lines to the apex and get it rotated at the apex while already in front of his rival, ended Greg with his analysis. Compared to him, Lando seems to enjoy a car that is less stable on the brakes and with a little more understeer. One way to drive a car like the 2021 and 2022 McLaren, which possesses a hint of understeer, is to brake late and deep into the corner. This puts a lot of load on the front tires all the way into the apex but removes grip from the rear. This lower rear grip then allows you to pivot the car on the front axle through the corner, which then allows you to get a good exit. So with all things said, cars with a hint of understeer are normally much more stable on the power. This would allow the driver to gain time on the exit. If you look closely at Lando's performance from the last 2 years, it does seem like he sets his car up with a hint of understeer. This feature allows him to hit the throttle on the way out of the corner. This is the primary and the main difference between the both McLaren drivers, and it's why Lando has managed to perform much better compared to Daniel. At the moment, it's more than clear that Daniel doesn't have the confidence in the McLaren car. Apart from him, Lando seems like he's won with the car, which could be because the Brit hasn't driven another car. Although Danny had one full season to get used to the understeer of the car, it seems like he still struggles a lot with this particular problem. This could cost him a seat in McLaren, and that's a thing that no F1 fan wants to see. What do you think about Ricciardo's driving style in his recent performance in McLaren? Will he be able to turn things around? Or is his tenure in McLaren done? Let us know in the comments below, as we appreciate your opinion as our fans.